Good evening, everybody. How are you this evening? Hope that you're doing well. It is Sunday night, and we are going to be doing something that we don't normally do, kind of a later evening Sunday night stream with a special guest. And so, without further ado, I do want to welcome Sandy Claus aboard. How you doing tonight, Sandy?
Doing well. Family was sick, but everyone should be good now.
Good, good. Yeah, as we've started to kind of get towards 3.18, there's been some little things that I thought would be good to talk about. And, last week I had Drift on, and we talked a lot about kind of piracy and that kind of a thing. And, Sandy's kind enough to join us tonight to talk a trade, and I do want to say, Sandy's somebody who, him and I have been probably chatting maybe the better part of 6 or 8 months here and there. But he does a regular show called Bullish. And it is I have found it to be a very, very informative program about trade routes and just kind of trade knowledge in general. And yeah, so Sandy, tell us a little bit about kind of, I think you have like some, profit by hour and that type of thing. What are you really trying to accomplish with that program?
Well, I mean, I remember watching your channel, the Quantanium Coffee, back when you had like 60 subs or something like that. And what I found is the channels that just are giving back to the community, that are providing stuff for people, is usually the best, most receptive stuff out there. And so I started doing trading, and I couldn't find a lot of information out there. And so I just started writing stuff down. And granted, I love spreadsheets and I love Excel and numbers. So that's just kind of my niche. And so I started figuring out, how can I give back to the community, whether they want it or not, basically.
Fair enough. So, hey, Metaphysical, nice to see you tonight, by the way. Silas, nice to see you tonight. And so, I have a few questions before we get started for Sandy, and then we're really going to kind of dive into kind of the state of trade and how we feel like trade is how it's going to pan out in 318, and then, as we move forward as well. And so, with that being said, let me just kind of ask, when did you start playing Star Citizen?
Funny enough, I think I just passed my 1-year mark.
Oh.
I'm officially playing Star Citizen. I actually started in probably watching in November, before that, February, and I was just consuming online content, whether really mostly through Astropub. If you ever watch any of his stuff, a lot of his lore stuff.
I like Paul.
It was just one channel. Yep. And then I would throw in his videos on in my headphones while I was doing trash around the house, something like that. And so I just, you always heard the SE's a scams, watch what you're doing type thing. And so I was cautious about it.
Sure.
But he was like the big one, and I started watching some of your stuff, and then come February, I just jumped in and paid the $45 for the Aurora. I mean, it's cheaper than any game you can buy anywhere else, really, to be honest, to jump in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people, of course, you really can get over your skis and invest like crazy in this game, but you don't have to, right? That $45 will at least get your foot in the door. Hey Chris, good evening. How you doing? Geesley, good evening. How you doing? So you've been playing about a year. What was your first pledge ship?
So I did the Aurora, and then
nice.
I'm not one of those people that I don't have like tons of disposable income. So sure. I did the thing where you upgrade the ship. I took the Aurora, I upgraded it to a Cuddy Black, I believe.
Nice.
And then from a Cuddy Black to a Cuddy Red, and eventually I, like $40-50 at a time, and I got to the Prospector, and the Prospector was the end state for my first chain of upgrades.
Interesting. So, right after my own heart, the Prospector. So, kind of with that being said, so was mining just kind of what you did at first? Was trade always kind of in your mind as something that you were interested in, or did that kind of come later?
The trade came later, actually. I did a whole bunch of mining. I know we've had some events doing some mining. I've done some other events with the Mole, the Prospector. I was really almost straight mining for the longest time. I just enjoyed it. And then I just kind of slowly converted over to the cargo realm. Once you kind of, to be honest, before we get too much into cargo, once you get up to that C2 level, then you can actually get into cargo.
Yeah, and so, and I mean, we're going to discuss the, trade at kind of the different levels or whatever, but it really is that C2 is when you can kind of begin, it's when you can kind of start making those investments, and really kind of pulling some serious profit now. So.
Oh yeah, but I've stayed in industrial pretty much the entire time. I don't do a lot of dogfighting. I'm not bounty hunting, any of that stuff.
Yeah. Now, a couple of things I should mention, you guys. Hey, Mastodon, nice to see you. Griff, nice to see you this evening. We are, anything that you see on the screen tonight is just me monkeying around. I'm actually going to go pick up my Constellation Taurus and just kind of run a few, just kind of trade runs while Sandy and I are talking. Just to kind of keep it keep something happening on the screen, but really the main focus of the night is a good conversation. Metaphysical says, funny enough, I pledged for the Gladius and the Mule, and I realized how would it be to have a prospector and then just mine Quantanium and buy ships, so I did that. Yeah, Metaphysical, I can appreciate that. Griff says 07, good evening, Space and Sandy, and then we're getting some salutes in there. So let's talk about just kind of generally. Well, first of all, let me ask: Have you been monkeying around in the PTU too much at all?
No, actually, I stayed out of the PTU.
Oh, interesting.
Just not really my thing. I'll wait for the live. I can get into the first wave if I really wanted to. Just I don't know. Maybe I'm just lazy, but I stay in the PU. I keep going through that, and there's enough to do in the PU for content-wise for trading. And I just moved all my operations into the ArcCorp, so I'll be doing all my cargo runs in the ArcCorp area.
Oh, so and let's talk about that. Where were you focused before the ArcCorp area?
Hurston. I truly believe that when you start trading, Hurston is kind of centrally located.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to fly to Crusader or ArcCorp, Hurston's probably the best place to sell. You can sell everything you get in Hurston. It's pretty much equal distance to everywhere you want to go from there. So Hurston, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Chris is wondering, are you planning on building a trading outpost if you had the chance, say, with the Pioneer, if it ever gets in game? That's a tall order, Chris.
I would. The big change with 318, what I'm hearing is you'll be able to pull out 10 ships instead of the 3 that you can do in 317. And that's really the kicker for getting the fleets going, is being able to pull out more ships. I think right now I can pull out 2 C2s and an M2 if I want to. That's like the largest of my fleet.
Mm-hmm. 2 C2s and an M2 is a pretty healthy amount of cargo. Is there any place where you can go pick up, like if you pull 2 C2s up and an M2 up someplace, is there some place that you can kind of fill up all those ships at one time?
Oh yeah, titanium is probably the most abundant there in Hurston. Diamonds, if you're in the ArcCorp area, in a perfect world, I'd be able to get med supplies out of Crusader. So they'll be the ones I'd try and go for if I could.
Those are kind of the most profitable runs that you find in 317.5 right now.
I'd say quantity. So there's a good website if you ever want to know like quantities each station will accept, and you can purchase and sell, and it's SE Trade Tools. And so they're not very good at pricing, but they're very good at saying if you want to look up a station and say they every tick they have 50,000 CSCU of whatever commodity.
Sure. So you can
plan out where to go based on how much they can store quantity-wise of a commodity.
Gotcha. Hey, I just want to acknowledge a couple folks. Hey, Christoffel, how are you doing? Good evening. How are you? It's from Belgium. Hawk Zulu, nice to see you tonight. Metaphysical says, can I ask, is it going to be a thing in 3.18 live that ships overheat like they do in the PTU? More than likely, if it's in the PTU, Metaphysical, especially in these last few builds before it goes live, it's usually that, if you're experiencing something like that in the PTU, there's a good chance you will experience it in the live build. They don't normally kind of line item pull things back out of there, but and Chris is saying overheating will be a factor. Now, I haven't experienced too much overheating myself. KSS is saying, easy now, V. Long time no see. Who's the guest for the evening? Sorry if you've already introduced them. It's Sandy Claus. And Sandy Claus, KSS, is somebody who really focuses very heavily on trading. And so we're discussing trading as we kind of slip into 3.18 here, with Sandy. And so
please proceed to assigned landing.
Just give me tell me, what's it's a Tuesday night. You're logging on. You got a couple of hours, and it's just you and your C2. Where are you headed? What are you doing in 3.17.5? What would you say is kind of your like a bread and butter run for Sandy Claus?
Oh, bread and butter, hands down, Titanium. I can go from Hurston to Ariel and back, so what I call take off the terminal in 20 minutes and make 100K profit.
Take off to terminal in how fast?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
I've gotten as low as 18 if I'm
wow.
Depending on how the trams are timed and how fast I can run to places. But yeah, 18 minutes is probably my fastest time.
So have you been able now, of course, sometimes, 18-minute runs don't necessarily mean you get 3 in an hour, but it's right around that amount. So you can make about 300K an hour.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, cause the lowest I've ever gotten Titanium is $7.10 a unit. And then the more you buy, of course, and everybody else and whole servers and all that stuff is they're buying Titanium too. It'll creep up as you go, like 7.11, 7.12. But I mean, you can fill up a C2 in one click and go, and yeah.
Gotcha. Wow, that's a good run. And so Metaphysical says, what are you flying for your cargo runs? I'm assuming it's the C2 for the most part. KSS says, what does he think about resource changes for mining in 3.19? New raw materials, localizing elements to different areas. Do you basically what KSS is saying is, do you think kind of some of the changes that are coming in mining, how do you think they may affect trade? Now, I'll speak to some of that because they did say that some of the basic stuff, like some of like iron and that they're just adding or your copper, those types of things, they're supposed to have, they're supposed to be a little more worth a little more than they used to be in the market before. That's basically what they were saying, is that in order to kind of offset some of the changes that they're making. What have I got going on here? I thought I landed this thing, but maybe I didn't. This is so funny. Hold on here.
What do you got, the Tana? The Mako, whatever it is?
I do, but I don't know what's going on. That's so funny.
That's actually a really good ship. If you want a starter ship that's actually got good firepower instead of like an Avenger, oh man, you're up in the air.
Yeah.
You can actually fit an STV in the back of that very comfortably and get around it. So it's not a bad ship to have.
Yeah, not bad at all. I like this thing a lot. Jazzy Cat, good evening. Hog Zulu says, the upcoming changes are scary, but we need more complexity than we have now to begin fleshing out the economy. I don't disagree with that. I mean, we were always going to have some economy of scale, and we were absolutely, they're just setting the table for manufacturing and for crafting. That's a big reason I think that they decided to go back to mining and kind of getting that shook out. Is I think if I were to just kind of take a stab at it, I think with kind of like the Vulture, how they decided to go with kind of, making the pyro tool and that kind of a thing, it probably really got them. And I'm sure with the C2 as well, they are, pardon me, the Hull C coming out. I'm sure they've really began thinking about trade at a much greater level. And so, with that, I think that they felt like they needed to kind of go back as quickly as possible and kind of make the changes to mining, because it's all of the base resources in the game that are going to be required for those things to just kind of come from there. So, all right, let's see. Metaphysical says, do you think it will be good solo mine in the Prospector on 319? I don't know, Mez. I'm not sure yet, Metaphysical, on that. I think it remains to be seen. It just depends on the changes. Rusty says Stan has a bad good morning. And good morning, Rusty. How are you? So we're chatting with Sandy Claus, and we're chatting about trade for the most part. And then any other questions that you guys have. KSS says, hey, V. They also said that from 3.19 elements would localize to different planets. For instance, aluminum's a Crusader. I think they said copper was going to be up around Microtech, that type of thing. That sets up trade routes because materials are more valuable in different areas. I think you're probably not wrong, KSS. I think, and what do you think about that, Sandy? If copper's abundant in the Microtech area, it's probably very likely to kind of buy low there. If that's going to be the major place where it's created or dug out of the ground.
Yeah, they already kind of have a semblance of that in the current live. If you look like Laranite, which I think is the worst commodity out there to ever trade. Laranite's a lot more abundant in the ArcCorp system, but it also sells lower at Area 18 than it does the other 3 major cities. So if you want to sell it for the 31 and a cent, you go away from Area 18. I think Area 18 is like 30 and some change. Like it's a little bit less, but not a lot.
Please visit us again.
So I think the basis is there that places where it's abundant, you're gonna have to travel further to sell it at a higher price, basically.
Absolutely. So, have you flown the Hull A or any of the hulls? Have you had a chance to fly that guy yet?
I do have the Hull A. I did upgrade slowly to the Hull C. So I do have a pledged Hull C.
Nice.
Which gives me a Hull A and a Hull C loaner ships for now.
Nice.
And I do have a Hull A. I have done like one video on it. It's 32 SCU. It's just
64, I think.
64. Yeah. I don't care about 164. That thing is so slow in atmosphere. Yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but I do have one. I think it'll be great for salvage. I think Hull A is going to be a great salvage ship if you partner with a Vulture.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that there's, and of course we can get into the internal versus external cargo. I definitely think that the external cargo, as we've seen kind of when you're kind of offloading, say, RMC off the back of a Vulture ramp, it's nice to be able to have that external cargo grid to attach to. That actually can increase some efficiency. I think we see that a little bit here and there, but it will be interesting to see kind of, as the next, trade is an iterative process. I mean, eventually we're going to have your load timers and you're going to be able to say hire different levels of deckhands. I think it's basically just, I think, a money sink in order to kind of determine how fast you're getting your ship loaded. But the external ships, the external cargo ships, I think are supposed to load faster than the internal ones.
You would think so. And if it affects my POT, my profit over time stat that I track, that will change what ships I fly. POT, I think, is what I call the God matrix, the God stat that you should always track. It's POT.
Now explain profit over time, and why that particular metric is really where it's at for you.
I mean, some people could argue that net profit, how much your wallet's growing, is the most important, and I think yeah. But I think profit over time is the most important, and for profit over time tells me how much UEC I'm making per minute of an action, and you can take that POT and apply it to anything you're doing. If you're doing bounty hunter, as long as you have a set time you start your clock and a set spot where you stop your clock. You can do it with mining. For me, for trading, I call take off the terminal. As soon as my ship takes off from the hangar, I start the clock. Once I buy, come back, ride the tram, get to Loreville, wherever it is. As soon as I walk up to the terminal, I stop my clock, and that tells me, I then do the math off the net profit. How much am I making per minute? And so that's when I say 20 minutes for a run for titanium. That 20 minutes is then divided into my profit, and that tells me I'm making 5.5 to 6K per minute of doing an action.
Yeah, and there you go. And if you're wondering why Sandy's on board chat with us, it's because of that right there. I've looked at a couple of Sandy's spreadsheets, and they're thorough, and so
I have one pulled up if you need it. If you ever need to show it.
Yeah, well, you know what? I wish I should have thought about that. I didn't prepare to show it, so I probably would, get sideways if I tried to midstream. But
I'll throw it in my next one.
Yeah, I don't know if those are. Make sure that you do though link. Make sure that you do link. Maybe an episode of Bullish or your channel, or make sure you do throw that into the chat so people can have a chance to come check out your stuff for sure. So what do you think? I mean, Hull C really seems like, it almost seems to me like we're not, like, not in a bad way. I mean, there could be something I don't understand at all or whatever, but it seems like, man, that's an awful big leap from where we're at to say, and if I don't know if anybody knows this, but the Hull C, I think it does something like 4,800. That's you.
Yeah, just over 4,600.
For just over 4,600 versus the 699 cap that we have now. That's got to be if they're going to bring that into the game, that's going to have to be a relatively specialized, maybe a self-contained process. I can't imagine there's enough commodities to kind of keep that thing moving.
Oh no, not in the current state. And I think there was some, I won't say leaked, but some very heavy information that CIG's kind of put out there that they're expecting the Hull C to come out this year with 318, but in 318. I can't see it before 319. It's got to be something linked to Pyro, to be honest. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I can't see it. I agree with you. I have a hard time seeing that. Let's see here. Metaphysical says, what would be the mechanic for TF boxes from a Vulture to a Hull A?
You just have a guy throw the boxes out and snap them to the outside of the Hull A.
That's exactly right. You can actually open up that ramp. The Hull A can pull up kind of right behind it, and you can actually just like you get kind of that purple outline on the grid for a snap 2 for when you're say in the Vulture, you get that same snap 2 grid, but it's on the outside of the ship on the Hull A, and you can take like an RMC box, take it right off your ramp and snap it right to the outside of the Hull A, which really makes it very convenient if you're kind of having somebody just kind of come and grab whatever you have done as far as RMC is concerned, and then they can haul away. Chair McLovin, hey Chair, by the way, how have you been? Nice to see you. Wouldn't that be something you could get with a Connie if you lowered the ramp down? I'm not sure what you mean there, Chair. Was there something I might have missed? And Metaphysics says, I was wondering. Yeah, no problem. So
you can do the same thing with a Cuddy Black. Just only open one side door and throw the boxes in there, which makes the Hull A almost not important then as well.
Yeah. All right, hold on here. I'm just kind of getting myself orientated. All right. Hold on there. Hey George, nice to see you this evening. Sorry about the awkward silence there. I kind of was piloting and kind of got lost in the sauce there for a moment. So I didn't want to.
It's like being in that green band of mining when you're landing.
I didn't want to
focus.
I had to focus for a minute. I didn't want to crash. So Macedon says, so I've done this. You can beam it to the Hull A and it'll stick like a magnet. It's actually a very good idea in a smooth process. Yeah, Mass is not wrong. The cargo ramp with the Connie, lower the ramp down because that's where the cargo is stored in the Connies. You're absolutely right. You can do the same thing, and eventually, of course, with tractor beams, the Connie will even be nicer because that underneath tractor beam will service the cargo as it drops out of there. Hey, Dave, how are you doing? Nice to see you this evening. We're chatting trade, Dave. If you have any questions, hey, Toe, how are you this evening? I leave a Cuddy Black at Mike L4 sitting on the outside of a pad and ferry RMC to it. That's a smart idea. Griff says, with the cargo running, you can actually make good money. It sounds boring, but I assume it's pretty chill. Yeah, I mean, Grift, Sandy was saying just earlier that he can make around, um, around 300,000 an hour, fairly consistently. So yeah, it's not bad money at all. I don't think.
Yeah, the most I've ever made was actually with medical supplies out of Crusader because um, Yella I could buy and fill to C2 in one go without waiting. No, didn't have to wait for refresh sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sold it in Orison, and I think my profit was around 260K for that run. But it took us a little bit longer.
Yeah. Now, have you caught the medical supply like when they're doing were you saying that's when you caught it for Siege? Is that what you were saying?
No, that was outside of Siege.
Oh, it was outside of Siege.
Oh, during Siege of Orison, the lockdown events with my C2, I was making just under 1 million per run.
Wow. And so now when Siege is coming, were you pre-staging for that? Or were you kind of just running it when the event went off?
Just when it would run. I mean, it doesn't take too long. I would try to get in the areas, but they kind of stay in the same rotation. You can guess.
Now, did you ever hit any snags running medical supplies for that? Like,
yeah. The problem is when you're coming into the station. See, I found a way to you kind of skip the interdiction portion of it. So I can skip the interdiction portion of coming into the station, but the problem is waiting for all the other people to land, and so you're just sitting out there, basically in the cold, waiting for a hangar to free up to land, and that's when the people start shooting at you.
Oh yeah, that's when I started taking fire too. Is when I land. Now I managed to get the C2 in and get the door closed, but
same.
It was scary. It was a scary moment.
It was a little sweaty. I had to go full shields to the rear as I'm flying hot into the hangar. I don't even think I put the landing gear down, just skid it in.
That's funny. So,
have I ever been pirated? I saw Scared just asked that one.
Yeah.
I've actually never been pirated yet. So not from a player. I've been interdicted once or twice from an AI.
Couple questions here. Plus, don't forget the C1 will also have a tractor beam on the back. Yep. Oh, the C1. Now that's the Crusade, the Spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of that little ship?
I want one.
I like it.
Maybe it's my nostalgic because it reminds me of the Normandy from Mass Effect.
All right, Serp says, hey, caught the stream. Hey, Serp, nice to see you. C2 running scrap from TDD to HURL5 makes 40K a trip. I never knew that. How about you? Now, have you done some scrap runs before?
I don't. I try and stay in the min-max type of runs, trying to maximize every minute I'm out there. And so to see if scrap was profitable, I'd have to apply my POT to it. And does it take me 10 minutes to run that, or is it taking me 40 minutes? I've made hundreds of thousands, but it's taken me 65 minutes to get a run done. And when my RRT gets above 45 minutes, I start getting antsy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Metaphysical says, I've seen pirates demanding ransoms in chat. They extortion really was metaphysical. One of the only ways to do piracy previously. But of course, as we all know, with soft death and some of the big changes that are happening in 3.18, that's about to change. The whole negotiations are, I think we're going to find that are going to be, they're not necessarily going to be as as fruitful as the negotiations used to be as we slide into 3.18. Let's see here. Oster says howdy. Hey, Oster, how you doing? So tell me a little bit about, like, in your mind, Sandy, what would be kind of a perfect world economy? What would be, how would you see things if you kind of sat in Chris Roberts' role?
Well, I have a short term vision where I'd like it to be, and long term. So the short term, I would say I'd like to be more in the mining realm. What makes mining probably the most profitable thing out there is when you tandem like two prospectors together, and they can go both out out there, both mine, both help each other out, and you'll make more per minute with 2 prospectors than you'll do anything else. If I could launch or give up my ship and someone could take that ship to go and actually buy at the terminal, because as of right now, if I pull my C2 up and they take it out there, I have to be at the terminal at the station to actually purchase it and load it. But if I could somehow give them free will to load the commodities into my C2 at wherever they're at and then bring it back to sell it, that would be perfect for me. That's when you can get into the fleet or the business side of cargo hauling.
That makes a lot of sense. Serponal. Doe has a question. What about have you done kind of this like some illegal cargo running at all? Have you done any of that stuff?
I have not. I tried to do it in a C2 and I got blown up, which is fine. I think I lost like 400,000 off that one. I did it in my. Trying to think what ship I was in. I want to say I was in the Taurus. Yeah, I was in the Connie Taurus.
Oh, interesting.
And I went to Jumptown because it's one of those few places it doesn't have an indicator, the POI thing that you can jump to. So only people who know how to get to Jumptown can get there. So I went there, and they also sell 3 different vices or drugs there. And so I could just do that until I could fill it up. But it took a while, 65 minutes to fill up the Taurus.
60. How long did it take? Did you say a little over an hour?
About an hour to fill it up, I think is what it was. But you're looking at, what is that, 146 off the top of my head? SCU? I don't remember what the Taurus is off the top of my head.
I've had this bug. I'm just going to say this is a bug I think that I have right now in the PT really quickly. You can see I can't buy. I mean, this is not in my hold. I sold this already. But it looks like like it's full. But it's not. That's what's crazy about it.
Someone's asking about running drugs on Daymar. If I do drugs, it's only in the Crusader system because that's where the most drugs are at. Again, I go to Jumptown for that. It is very profitable. The problem is sitting there for the refresh times for each drug, because it's Widow is like the big one. So I think at one tick I can only get 30 to 40 SU at a time, and then I have to wait.
How long is a tick?
Depends.
Yeah,
5 minutes sometimes.
Yeah, I've definitely had. I was wondering if maybe you had a hard number because it's been a bit of a mixed bag for me.
I need to actually just sit there and time it, but the problem with doing that is you time out on the terminal, and so I have to just keep checking back in there. But yeah, there's a place to sell on Daymar, and that's where I sell my drugs, is Daymar. It's the salvage yard.
You sell all of your drugs to the salvage yard on Daymar?
Yeah, because it has the biggest quantity that they'll accept of all the places.
Nice.
Yeah, Nick 11 says 174 SU.
Yeah, that's the Taurus for you. Cool. So a couple of questions for you. So is there any hope for trade like just in 3.17.5 for any ships that are sub, like, I'm thinking like the Cutlass Black and down. Is there any trade commodity for the 46 SCU and down outside of drug running?
Outside of drug running?
That's got any level of profit?
No, not in 317. No, nothing below that. And to be honest, anything below a Taurus, the 174 is probably not worth. Again, if you like doing cargo run, yes, it's worth it. If you're looking at maximizing your profits, your profit over time, that sort of stuff, no. You're better off doing your 90K bounty hunting or bunker runs.
Grift is asking, do you have a cargo website or some routes and whatnot like that you share?
I have not. Usually when I do a video, because Sandy Claus is not actually the YouTube channel I do. I do Arcor Media Company because I want to do more than just cargoes. But I will actually do a segment on different routes. And so, yes, I do have routes. I just haven't gone over a lot of them.
Yeah. And Grift, one of the things I mentioned, and you can just kind of, track Sandy down, but he does a show, he publishes a show called Bullish that I really like, where it's generally a pretty, it's a very straightforward, just kind of usually trade, like he'll take you on the trade run and talk about kind of the profit over time, and it's done very well. There's lots of good tips and tricks in there, and so I highly recommend Bullish. I have a long commute in the morning to head to my dad's before I go to work, and I love, like, when there's an episode of Bullish or something like that to kind of listen to as I take my my commute. It's just one of those things. I think it's a really nice thing to have. Let's see. Metaphysical says, the thing I enjoy is that we have a number of game loops, so you can do whatever tickles your fancy. That's pretty awesome for one game. You're not wrong, Metaphysical. I mean, obviously there's a whole bunch, whole bunch more game loops that we hope get into a little bit better state as things go on, but no, I completely agree with that. And Griff says, I'm not going to prey on the routes. I just was looking for other chill game loops. I mean, Griff, you should watch Bullish, because the routes are great. I think that, and they're very helpful. And, if you just are just taking you want kind of an easy evening, you can just go pick some stuff up and haul it and sell it and make a few bucks. And it's all good fun, if you're not pirated.
Yeah, and it depends on what you like to do. I'm not a big fan of sitting in one spot and waiting for the refresh ticks to go. So in ArcCorp, you have to move around a lot. So those routes are a little more complex and more planned out. The standard route of Hurston to Lathan or Hurston to Besdick for Titanium, those are pretty standard routes that I run. The med supplies to Orison. I've done the timing on, do I go to Orison to sell or go all the way back to Hurston? And it's actually quicker just to go into Orison, especially with 318 when they shorten down the distance. There's no reason to sell med supplies anywhere else but Orison anyway.
It makes a lot of sense to me. Chair says, so over time, a Connie is not even worth it if I'm understanding that a C2 would be. You know what, though, Chair? You actually can make a few bucks. I would say probably your entry level into kind of bigger cargo, and I'll let Sandy speak for this, but I would say the entry level is the Taurus. With 174 SEU, you can make some money.
Oh, yeah. You definitely can. It's not... Taurus, yes, I would say Taurus is the entry level for large-scale cargo running for profit.
Currently. That's not to say that that's, it's going to stay that way forever, but yeah, I mean, you can pick up some... You can make a fairly good amount of, depending on what you haul. You can make pretty good money in the Taurus. It's not bad at 174 SEU.
Just don't do Laranite.
Just don't. Sandy is Laranite is obviously, you guys know, is kind of is a big meta for some people. And one of the things that's always kind of I liked about Sandy is he's always trying to talk people out of that one.
It's garbage for profit margin. So that's another stat I check is the profit margin, and it consistently trades between 9 and 10% profit margins, and the amount you got to invest up front is not worth it.
And it is a healthy investment. There's a huge difference between being a trader and being a hauler. We'll talk about that in a little while as well. Christoffel says, mining and salvage is going to be good profit without any risk of losing your money. It's 100% profit. If you look at it, maybe salvage is even better option because you don't have to do the 2 runs. You're not wrong, Christoffel. I think right now there's a reasonable argument to be made that the Vulture may be the best starting ship in the game, just because you can literally get in that thing and 35 minutes later be flying back with 100,000, 95,000 in your cargo hold. It's probably between a 35 and 45 minute game loop to get 100,000. And so, with that, it's one of those, that's a good thing to understand there, is, I'm getting attacked here. Metaphysical says, taking a rock out in the Liberator to the other systems for gem, I can count me in. Hey, that sounds fun. Yeah. All right. Griff says, what I mean is, can you make enough to purchase bigger cargo ships? Now, Griff, starting out with what ship are you talking about? I think what we're talking about is, probably the recommendation is to at least before you start getting into cargo, kind of trading, is probably a Constellation Taurus is going to be kind of the 174 SCU. What about, the 114 or the 126 or whatever of the Freelancer Max? Not to say that those are terrible. You just obviously you're gonna do the same run. You're not gonna quite, make quite as much. Let's see. Chair says, could that time be lowered down if you have a friend back in the back moving boxes for you in the Vulture? A little bit, Chair. But the thing is that I don't think it's that crazy to get out of your your chair every so often and move those RMC boxes. I don't think it's that big of a deal where you might want to necessarily split. Now, if that second person is also doing cargo running, then you might have something there. Hey, Humble. Hi. Monk, how you doing? Hello, V and everyone else. We're talking trade tonight, Monk. If you have any questions or, we're chatting with Sandy Claus about kind of the state of trade as we head into 318 and a little bit of mining, a little bit of everything else tonight. So, what do you think about how do you think these initial trade missions are gonna? I think you'd spoke to them as maybe like a beefed up box mission. Tell me what you think how those hauler missions are going to work out.
So, the more long term, your cargo hauler shouldn't be upfront with all the money investment for the stuff in the back of your truck, basically, right? You're a hauler. You're moving other people's product, other people's stuff. Now, do you need to pay for insurance for this stuff in your truck? Yeah, sure. And they should have money sinks like that. But an investor or someone who's day trading should be hiring a cargo hauler to move their stuff and sell in the long term. I think Eve kind of does this too. If you ever played a little bit of Eve, I only did it for a little bit, and then I was so bad at it, I quit.
I played a little.
So yeah, you can day trade, and so that's the difference. I should be able to buy and sell commodities without ever hauling as a day trader. As a cargo person, I shouldn't be forced to put up for a fully loaded C2 of Laranite. It's 1.9 million. Like, I shouldn't have to put up 1.9 million of my money to make 200K profit.
Well, and that seems excessively less lucrative now, considering that makes you the juiciest target.
Oh yeah, outside of Quantanium, Laranite runners are going to be the next. That's the only people pirates are going to go for it.
That's going to make you the juiciest, worm in, on the hook. For sure.
So yeah, if I have a cargo ship, I should be able to go to the mission tab and pick up X amount of whatever commodity, go there, sell it, and make 30, 40K starting off. Just like bunkers and whatever else, you slowly stair-step your way up as your reputation goes up.
That makes sense. So definitely you see it kind of they really should tie that. And I agree 100%. You'd like to see it tied to rep where you maybe even it's born out of the box missions. You might get after you do a bunch of just kind of the regular box missions, you finally do kind of earn your way to get your first little cargo run, and then maybe they just they start out smaller, but eventually work, get into some pretty decent sized contracts.
Oh yeah. And then later on, if I'm just a day trader, I should be able to buy a commodity somewhere, hire a cargo person to run it into another place, and then I can sell it there later on without ever having to jump in a ship myself and move it.
I like where that's headed for sure. Let's see. Metaphysical says you say you want a good ship for trading as a solo player. What would you say prospector mining until you get enough for a good trading ship is quicker, or by trading? So I think that you could probably do, I mean, either way. But here's the thing, Metaphysical. If you have a prospector, that's going to be, that's really going to be, I mean, there's not, you really have a couple of options, right? Let's say if you're spending real money, and I'm just going to throw the scenario out there, and it may not be exactly what you're asking for, but I'm going to just kind of put some context in it to try and answer your question. Like the Prospector's $155, the Taurus is $190. I'm fairly certain that, depending on I don't think that the time would be that far apart, actually. By the time that you do all of your mining and then all of your refining, and then, I do think, if you choose, say, a refining process that's faster, it's going to cost you more up front. So I think, if I had a Constellation Taurus and I had a Prospector, I think you probably know that my choice would be probably I would prospect my way to the C2. That being said, I don't know that depending on how dedicated of a hauler that, that Taurus pilot was, I think that it would be relatively close in my mind. I don't think that it would be like, one person would have it a week before the other person.
Yeah, I think it all depends on what you have pledged. I no longer have a prospector pledge, so I'll be jumping in my C2 as soon as I can.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so, obviously when you start out with the bigger ship, I think you hear like, it's so funny because Info Runners kind of mentions this a lot, right? If you start out kind of with the bigger ship, in that particular line, you just do, then you can go backwards, and get all the little ships that you want. And I think there's something to be said. The C2 is an exceptionally good hauler. I mean, first of all, it's not just the 700, it's not just the 699, but I mean, it is that, but it's not. It also handles fantastic in atmosphere. It's a very capable craft. It's not. It's not hard to get in and out of either. I mean, it's a little bit long, but all things considered, it's not bad.
Oh no, I did a video doing bounty hunting missions in my C2, and I think and I'm bad at bounty hunting, dogfighting in general, but I was doing HRTs in my C2.
So, good question from Doe. Doe says, how do you gather your data to make your cargo trading decisions?
Oh, that's going to be a fun next hour conversation.
Well, that doesn't have to be an hour, but take, maybe give us the best paraphrased version you can.
So there are two good websites out there to follow. One is uexcorp.space. So if you want up to the minute, very, very close to pricing and where it can be bought, what can be bought where and stuff, UEX Corp is a good one to go off of. And then SE Trade Tools is a good one if you want to know how much of a commodity, the refresh rates, the ticks, and all that sort of stuff. That'll tell you each station how much they refresh. So there may be some places that hold 50,000 CSU of Laranite, but it only refreshes at like 500 every 5 minutes. So that's how I planned it initially. And so now I have enough spreadsheets out there that tell me I've done enough data mining myself. My spreadsheets tell me where to go now.
Very nice. I was just typing. I muted my mic for a second here.
So I mean, I've got enough history data where I can graph it out. Titanium's the one I usually always go with because it's usually pretty low, and I've learned over time if it's per unit cost of $7.17, once it goes over, 17.14, then it's no longer 100K per load. That's how I've done it. So I have a flying Excel sheet with me.
So let me ask you this, just because I'm curious. Do you remember when 317.4 went live, and then there was that? I don't know if it was a special event or whatever, but there was that audio visual equipment. Did you catch that?
I missed the AV equipment.
Yeah, I was wondering.
I heard about it.
You know, it was funny because I think I was watching Jack Axton that day, and somehow it came up on his stream, and I didn't actually participate in it myself, but I was just kind of curious if you know, that was kind of like that was a one crazy trading day for sure.
I have heard the horror stories and the glory stories from those. Yes.
Yeah, there was it did not. What was funny about that, and then talk about how things happen organically, is it did not take long for people to figure. I mean, first of all, just to put it in context, I think there was like a day or a day and a half where I think that, and I'm just paraphrasing here, you could spend around 15 million or 16 million or 16.5 million or something. You could purchase this AV equipment and fill your C2, but then you could take it to Orison and you could sell it for double that, basically, I think. And so because of that, people were just kind of, went crazy, as you can imagine. But then it did not take long before the pirates had kind of it locked down. They were just, as the C2s were rolling in, they're like, hey, I noticed that you're carrying some AV equipment. Would you mind slipping me a couple million to get by here? I mean, it was that Star Citizen at its finest. It definitely became kind of like, it was locked down pretty quickly. And it wasn't CIG that was doing it. It was Fireworks.
Someone was asking about the Vice earlier. So in the Taurus, it took me 65 minutes to fill up the Taurus with the 3 drugs. My profit was $350,000 though off that run.
So cargo running isn't worth it until you can get a Connie Taurus.
Not unless you're doing drugs.
Yep. The only thing, that's, I mean, we hate to say that, Grift, but realistically, I mean, from about north of a Connie Taurus is where you'd actually start saying, hey man, I made 40 grand, or I made 50 grand, or I made 60 grand when I made this run. Before then, I mean, you're going to be looking at, an hour's worth of time, and you might make 14,300 or something. Type of thing. There's just not that much income in the smaller commodities unless you're moving Widow or one of the outlaw commodities. That's a weird bug. Would it have something to do with the internet? Yeah, I don't know. Fly somewhere else in the other ship and call the tourist. Yeah, I should do that for sure. That will reset the space. I think I will do that on Metaphysical.
I think Metaphysical also asked if I did anything in Microtech. I have not. I tried to get some med supplies out of there once, but it was just more profitable to go to Crusader and get the med supplies there.
So let's talk a little bit about, tell me what your first couple of days. You don't have to tell me specifically where. What are your first couple of days going to look like in 318? Are you going to be just C2 in it and off you go, or does it? I suppose part of it probably depends on how much starting capital we actually have. I would imagine. Yeah,
and if they give us millions of UEC like they did last wipe, I'll go straight to C2. But I doubt they're going to do that this time.
I kind of hope that they don't. I mean, I don't want to be too crazy about that, but I definitely I really do want to start kind of maybe 30,000 or less or something like that. I think that would be okay.
And so that might be the only way where those sub 96 SU ships come into play, because you can start filling those up faster because you have the wallet capacity to do that. Until you have titanium cost you roughly 600k to fill up your C2, so I should in theory have 1 million to 1.5 million in my wallet before I start trading titanium alone. Because you crash the desktop, you lose it all. You get pirated, you lose all that. So then you have to reinvest that money back in to make any.
That is true.
So yeah, first couple times will be just doing what I can to make and get to my first million.
Yeah, and that's kind of, like where I'm at is it's kind of a pretty much a split decision, right? If I have 30,000 in the bank, I'm just gonna go salvaging. I mean, I'm literally not even gonna. I'm gonna buy a pyro multi-tool and a tractor beam and jump in the vulture and just go salvage. 2 or 3 runs and get myself $250,000. Once I have that, then I'll pivot and I will go do some prospecting. Hopefully can get some refinery jobs going, and then just kind of bounce between salvage and mining, and then if certainly a little bit of cargo hauling too if there's something to go on with that. Now I'll be doing a lot of box missions too, because I'm going to be using boxes to kind of mark what I'm mining, or salvage nodes and that type of stuff in the Iron Halo, so I can go back to it.
Yeah, I got the medical Pisces, so I'll probably be doing bunkers, to be honest, because I've also got the FS9 and P6 after each wipe.
Great ship, medical Pisces. Love that ship. Let's see here. Chair says, so that is another question I have been wanting to know about. Is there going to be a wipe? Yep, there is a full wipe, Chair, for sure. 318 Live Prospector and Cuddy Black first order of business is mine for a Freelancer Max. Then I'm going to get a fighter and have some real fun. So metaphysical, I think the cost between a Freelancer Max and a Constellation Taurus is probably about 4 or 5 Prospector runs. And I would tell you that in 318, my thought would be, even a Constellation Andromeda, Freelancer Maxes are going to basically, don't get me wrong. First of all, let me just preface this by saying I adore the Freelancer Max. And I think Sandy's also very fond.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, I'm very fond of it. But I will tell you that, kind of in this piracy patch that we're going into, Freelancer Max, if I see a Hull A, or if I see a Freelancer Max, or if I see a Argo Raft, those are kind of ships that I'm going to look at as kind of commodity. If I'm somebody who's doing piracy. There are some other ships that are going to be a little bit more tough to crack. Of course, the Constellation Andromeda, that's a little more expensive than the Constellation Taurus. But I might recommend a Taurus only because of this. You can get 2 size 5, 2 size 4s. It's got a bevy of missiles. It's got a really good shield, and and it's got a lot of hull HP. So you might consider metaphysical, thinking about maybe skipping the max this time. And I hate to say that, I'll bite my tongue. And maybe thinking about the Constellation Taurus. What's your thoughts on that, Sam? Do you think that's wrong advice or right advice?
My nostalgia says go with the Freelancer Max, because when I first got into the game, I had no money. I think Xeno Threat may have been going on, and they're like, "Hey, jump in the turret," and so I jumped in the turret, made some money, and then whoever that guy, I forget his name off the top of my head, he's like, "Hey, have you ever had was it the Dragonfly?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Here, I'll buy you a Dragonfly," and so he started giving me some money. And he finally gave me enough to buy the Cuddy Black. And so when I did the Cuddy Black, did some mining events, and I scraped and saved for my Freelancer Max. And so the Freelancer Max is my nostalgic one. So I will say Freelancer Max just because, yes.
Well, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the Freelancer Max. I mean, I truly like the ship. I'm not even joking at all. That being said, I just think that there's some other choices that are a little more stout. Of course, they're more expensive, as well. I think you'd find like an MSR would be another one, a sneaky good one. Just because 114 SEUs, no slouch, and it's pretty quick. It's not a ship that necessarily screams target. as well. So, hey,
Four
Tron.
rhinos is hard.
Yeah, 4 rhinos. Hey, Tron, it's nice to see you. How have you been? And Silas, I totally understand. Will tell you, the constellations were not, they definitely aesthetically were not in my wheelhouse either. That being said, I have really grown to really, really appreciate the Constellation Taurus for what it is. It's been kind of a staple in my, in my hauling for such a long time. But no, Silas, I get where you're coming from for sure. And the cutlasses aren't everybody's cup of tea, that's for sure. It's just over $1 mil more for the Connie, right? So if it's just over $1 mil more, realistically, you're probably looking at 4 to 5 more prospector runs, with 1-to-1s with your, with your Cutlass Black, and then you could get the Taurus instead. I find the Connies handle poorly too. That's one big drawback for me, and I get that metaphysical. I totally understand that. That's more than fair. So now let me ask you this, Sandy, and this is a thought that's, I'm glad I got you here because I'm going to pick your brain on something.
Go for it.
So 319, they're starting to kind of hint at around Invictus. Did you catch that as well?
Yeah, I did.
So here's my question for you, and I think I said it yesterday in my stream, and I'll say it again to everybody that's here. So 318 drops, say March 1st. Then you go to April, and it's not long after that we're looking at it. I mean, what Invictus isn't that far away. No. So if for some reason I would imagine sitting here today, my prediction would be there'd be a 318 point patch that takes us into Invictus, because it seems like that's a lot of stuff that they would be trying to say fit into a 319. But here's the, I want to get to the point here, not trying to be terribly long-winded, but I am. I don't know that I want to. I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place about super grinding. Don't get me wrong, I have some goals that I want to have. I want the ships I want to have, but I wonder if they're going to wipe in 319 and it's just right around the corner.
I haven't heard anything about the wipe. I don't think 319 is going to be at Invictus. They did the same thing to us with 318 and 317. They kept saying, what was it? And there was like 2 or 3 events that came up, and it was like, oh, 318's coming here, 318's coming here, and it ended up not being. It was 317.3, 317.4, 317.5 alpha, whatever. And so they kept stringing us along. Everyone kept thinking 318 was coming out then, but they kept pushing it back with multiple versions of 317.
Yeah, and the thing is I remember with 317, they also jumped early, right? So like I was testing 317 in the PTU a couple of days before Invictus, and I said they can't go live with this. This isn't ready, and they did. They went with 317 and Invictus, and by all accounts, that was not a smooth situation. I think they ended up. Remember, they gave people money, then they took it away, then they took some more away, and then there was a whole bunch of exploits where people could dupe money, and they ended up having to do that 17.2 or 17.3 wipe. Not long after that. So I would rather them just do a stable point patch in 318 for Invictus and just put your ships in there than say push a 319 too soon.
And I'm happy. I'm one of the few people that I'm okay with them delaying 318 longer than they've expected, because 317 didn't come out the best. And I came in around the 315, 316, and 316 was an amazing patch. It was great the whole time.
I love 316. 316 was a great patch.
I'm okay with delays as long as it's a better patch.
Yeah, and 316, I don't know if it was considered 316.1 or whatever, but there must have been, I think, about a 45-day period. I don't think I did 30K in 45 days. It was so stable. I mean,
Same.
And it was, and of course, back in the day, trading was so vicious because, if you recall, that was when they were introducing 30K protection. But what was floored me is at the same moment they introduced 30K protection, you no longer seemed like you needed it because it didn't 30K anymore, you know. But
it saved me in a C2 once or twice.
It did though. I was gonna say eventually I did 30K, and it did save me as well. But I was just like, man, this is crazy.
Crash to desktops do not save you though.
Rusty says, how do you feel about not being able to bed log unless landed? Now, is that a feature or a bug, Rusty? I'm curious about that. And then Hog Zulu says, hovering 15 to 20 feet above the deck and bed logging was my most successful method. I have failed bed logs in space and on ground, and you have to have a single failed bed log in hover. So I'm saying, let's landed 890 jump just to log out kind of sucks. Fair enough.
That's true. Yeah.
That is true.
I don't own an 890 jump, so I guess.
Yeah. Do you have any big, like, what are your big aspirations? Like, let's say, you know, you have your fleet together, and your fleet's, you know, maybe you have you know, several pilots out there flying for you, and you're paying them well, and you're making a lot of money. What is there a specific ship, like an in-game ship, that you're like, I have to have that?
I haven't really looked into those too much. Only because financially they're like in the thousands of dollar range. So I just haven't even tortured myself to look at those. Was it the Orion, the Pioneer, that type of stuff?
Yes.
I would love to be able to have a whole E and the ability to buy and sell, filling it up.
How many has to use the hull E?
Oh, it's like 14,000, I think, off the top of my head. I mean, if you look at the whole C alone is almost 7 C2s. That's crazy.
That is absolutely crazy. Griff says, no, it's not a bug. If you have more than one person in your ship, you can't bed log. Interesting.
Make them walk the plank then. That's easy.
Yeah. Zulu says, at least the landing gear auto deploys now. Yeah. Humblebunk says, I have an MSR and a Cuddy Black, so I'm not worried about delivering mined goods. Yeah, those are good options, Monk. And I don't think, heading into 318, Monk, I will tell you, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Cuddy Black 1-to-1 right now. You know, if you go out and you get a full 32 SU of Quantanium and you haul it in with a Cuddy Black, it's still $250,000. You know, 270,000. So it's, you know, there's no reason. I mean, I mean, obviously it's nice to haul in 4 or 5 or 6, but there's nothing wrong with using your Cutlass to do a 1-to-1 on a prospector mode. So, I think you are in good shape. You have, if you happen to just, have less than 46 SCU, go one way, go, less than, 114 SCU, go with the MSR. Rusty Long says, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to say, I love the MSR. I'm not going to lie and say I haven't done any pirating. I've definitely sat on some Quantanium routes to try and catch some of those people, because I love the Mantis. That's my pirate ship I love.
Nice.
And every time we got an MSR, they pretty much outrun us, except for a Buccaneer. Just tracked them down a couple of times. But, yeah, MSR is good.
Yeah.
Thank you. And please visit again.
You also can't bed log if someone else's ship. I don't understand. Yeah, okay. I think that'll be interesting to see how that stuff pans out. I'm sure, Rusty, at some point they'll get the bed logging sorted out exactly how they want it. Doe says it's hard waiting when you know it's a wipe. Just rip off the Band-Aid. That's exactly right, Doe. I think all of us are kind of at that point where we're ready to just kind of take the plunge however it goes. So, obviously, guys, if you have any other questions about trade, please do feel free to ask. So, when 318 goes live, basically, I would imagine it kind of, for you, it must be, you kind of get out your spreadsheets, you start kind of doing some traditional runs and seeing if kind of those things, the numbers still wash, kind of initially, I would imagine. And then do you begin to dabble? Like, do you just kind of, are you mainly relying on the tools online, or do you occasionally just say, I'm just going to take a buzz over to Selin and see what's going on over that way?
I've never done the blind runs, I
Mhm.
always pre-plan. And I visit those two websites. I posted them there in the chat, the UX Corp and
Yep.
SG Trade Tools. So I'll go there and see what's going on. Are they accurate? No, but they give me into the ballpark range. Um, when it drops, I'll be doing titanium runs because you can't the distance between Ariel and Hurston, you can't be interdicted. It's too close. So the only place you'd be pirated is there at the actual sites in Lathan or Besdic. So I'll
Oh,
probably start
interesting.
there. Yeah, I'll probably start there. After that, I'll try and I'll branch out going to ArcCorp, and then I'll look and see how much acetine and agricium are going for. Um, Let me check the number real quick.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, Marcus, how are you this evening? George.
Yeah, acetine's the as far as profit margin per for a commodity, acetine's the most profitable commodity out there. I've gotten as high as over 22% profit margin with that, with acetine. So I'll check that, see if it's still trading way up there. And then I'll try med supplies and Crusader. That'll kind of give me my baseline.
It seems like I knew of, and maybe it was Jack who was doing this run one time, but it was like I'd like to say it was from like Rayari, and like it stayed on Calliope, and he would go from Rayari to one of the, I think maybe SMA 6 or like 6 Cuban 6, and he would take like astatine or whatever that is
Yeah.
from one of those, like he'd haul it to that, and then he'd bring something back, and I forget how much he was making for every cat, or every C2, but it wasn't a ton. It was like 35,000 or something, but he could do it like 4 or 5 times an hour. Like it was a, but I think, and if no one else was kind of hitting the server, which is the other side, like it would stay where he could pretty much keep the C2s going, which is, that's a big part of it, isn't it? Like, as far as, if you is understanding like what stations are going to have the volume that you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Knowing which stations have as much volume as you can get. Just like mining, the goal is how quickly can I turn the nose of my ship and get it back out there. So you might not be making a lot like net profit in your run, but if you're doing it in less than 10 minutes, it's going to equal what I'm doing in 30 to 40 minutes, and you'll probably make more.
So Rusty's saying, how often do commodities restock? So like take something like astatine or something. What's a normal amount that, like every tick that like a place would restock?
Something like acetine, you're looking at probably 30 SCU, 32-ish, depending on the place.
And those ticks, Rusty, are sometimes 5, sometimes 7 minutes. They're not. We were talking about it earlier. They're not. There's not a hard and fast rule that kind of works for those.
I should probably sit and time it just so I know.
Somebody probably does. There probably is a number, but like of course it's the servers can be laggy and that type of thing. So cool. Well, this has been a very good conversation. So, are you? Let's talk a little bit about of course, the elephant in the room, which is piracy. Is that something that you're going to? Are you going to be kind of, spending some time watching your routes that you normally get first? Are you just going to kind of go headlong, or do you have some plans? What are your initial plans for dealing with kind of the uptick in that?
For the titanium runs in Hurston, I'm not going to worry about it too much. If I see them at the site, I'm just going to turn and burn and get away from before I even land. When it comes to ArcCorp, because that's where most of the pirates are going to be, they're going to be hovering around Area 18 and ArcL1, because that's where everybody goes to refine. I'll treat it kind of like the Nine Tails lockdown event, where when I leave the station where I bought the med supplies, I don't fly directly to the site.
Right.
I'll fly like a million or two in one direction and then from there. I'll do the 2-point jump from there. So I'll probably do that when I first start in.
I think it was pretty wise for you to kind of acclimate yourself to the Mantis as well, because like knowing that little thing, like I didn't really realize you couldn't set up a quantum net in between Ariel and Hurston, you know, or that type of thing. So, you know, like, yeah, and I'm sure that's a good piece of specialized knowledge to have.
I forgot the website. There was one out there that would actually, you could put in any location you were at, where going, and you could actually put up a cone and you would know where to set up your Mantis, how far out from a station to catch multiple travel lanes. I forget what the name of it was, but they're out there, those websites.
Hey, listen to this. You'll like this, Andy. So Trevor is come on board. He says, hey, I'm looking to get into the game right now, and I found you, so I thought I'd ask you, well, if you had to choose from the first 4 game packages, 2 are 45 and the other 2 are 65, you know, which way would you go? Good question, Trevor. First of all, welcome to considering playing Star Citizen. You know, we, you know, one of the things I will tell you is if you decided to go with one of those two $45 packages, you would be fine. You know, there are things that you can do. For instance, melting the ship, get your $45 worth of credit back and put a little bit more in, and go up from there. So I'm not saying you have to do that, but you certainly, let's say you couldn't decide between the $45 and the $65 package. You could purchase the $45 package, fly it around for a couple days, be like, nah, that's what is, you know, maybe I should just put the other $20 in the game. Go ahead and melt it and then get the $65 package. So you do have some options there. I don't know. I haven't looked at which game packages are for sale. I can tell you, you know, I don't disagree with Metaphysical. I think the Avenger Titan is a very good, you know, ship to start with. You know, I think that's probably around a $65 package. I don't know exactly. And, you know, I mean, there's a number of other ships that I'm okay with that probably people may disagree with, you know, but is there, Trevor, can I ask, is there a specific package maybe you're leaning towards? And then,
yeah, what area you want to do in Star Citizen starting out?
That's exactly, Sandy's exactly right. What do you want to do in Star Citizen? That would be, you know, are you going to be more combat orientated, a little more industry, you know, trade or mining or salvage? So, hey, Brace, how are you doing? Spend $100 to get the Cutlass Black, best all-purpose ship. Not a bad choice though either. The Cutlass is a very good all-arounder. You're not wrong, Brace.
And you can always upgrade your ship. You can always melt it. You can always get the money back and put it into something else. So it's not like you're going to make a bad decision.
No, and the Cutter is a great ship. I agree with that 100%. I don't know how much the Medical Pisces is, but that's a heck of a good starting ship too.
I wouldn't get the Cutter, to be honest. Not a big fan.
Yeah, you know, the Cutter wouldn't be my first choice for sure. I think I would definitely lean towards the Titan. That's probably where I would lean. But I will tell you, you know, I have a personal, I happen to like the 100 series too. I mean, the 135C would be okay for me. You know, I'm not saying for anybody else. I would get by just fine with that. I just do box missions for a little while, and then I would do some hand mining with it.
Yeah, I agree with Rusty. I'd go with the Pisces over a Cutter. Any of the Avengers series, you can dogfight or do box missions in them. I start off with an Aurora.
Yeah, I would probably, even the if you're going to do like bunker missions, the C8R is a great place, you know, as well. So there's a lot of good options right in that area. I think, yep.
I'm not a fan of the Mustang. I tried, I bought it. I hate it. I died every time I went to go fight in it. You can't do anything else but dogfight in a Mustang, and so I would not recommend the Mustang at all.
Yeah, the Mustang is one of those ones where I'm not saying that you absolutely could purchase that thing and you would be just fine, Trev. You really would. You would find your way and everything would be fine. Hey, if anybody, you know, who's flown the Mustang Alpha, if you have an opinion on it, let's help Trevor. I will tell you, I haven't flown the Mustang Alpha myself, so I will tell you that I don't have a good, I myself wouldn't have a good opinion on it. But I think when you're first starting out, something that's a little less just combat orientated and a little more multi-role, like George is saying, maybe, you might find a little more versatility with that. But, that's, at the end of the day, you'd be fine. You can always crew on people's ships as well and meet people and just, fly all over. Hey, good night, Brace. C8X, Avenger Titan for space combat. And yeah, I don't disagree with that. The Aurora CL over the Mustang, I don't disagree with that. Or the Aurora MR is okay too. I think the MR is okay.
Can't knock 4 size 1 weapons either. I've seen a lot of people do some damage in Auroras.
Yeah. No, I think you would be fine in the Aurora. The good thing about the Aurora is there is a little bit of space. Like there's a bed. You know what I mean? And there's a little bit of space in there if you want to do boxes, you can actually get away with it. So I like that. I think there's a little more versatility in it. Ships can be rented and purchased in game, so yeah, there is no bad choice. Exactly. Hawk's not wrong. What?
Just don't melt your game package.
Yeah.
Ship, whatever that one is.
Yeah, if you're gonna melt, make sure that you have to have a game package. You can't just. Yep, that's good advice. Can you give me a tip about refining an HUR01? I was hoping to avoid piracy. Is it doable from the belt? So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be smart to get to get off the beaten path. As far as that goes. Now, if you're going to fly out of a refinery, probably ARC-L1 or CRU-L1 are probably not where you're going to want to fly out of. You're going to want to find just kind of an off the beaten path refinery. And really work from there. And the reason is because, at least for the first couple of weeks, I will tell you, when these first couple of weeks start, yeah, it's important to make money, but I'm actually just going to kind of, I'm not going to be in a crazy hurry. I'm going to kind of check the lay of the land and see how things are a little bit. I'm not, I'm certainly going to go to the Iron Halo in mine. I'm certainly going to go do salvage. I mean, I'm not saying that. But I'm also, I'm going to keep a pretty good eye on what's happening, kind of where, and, I'll be able to make some recommendations fairly early about some of that stuff.
Yeah, because 318 is not a cargo refractor. It's a pirate refractor.
It really is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that just... that changes the gameplay where pirates no longer, for the longest time, they just had to extort people for money. That's no longer the case. They can disable your ship and take your cargo off. So, it's just a different ballgame. All right. I mined the belt and jumped to Michael 1. So yeah, that sounds really good. I think hanging out in the Iron Halo, if you're an industrial type, a salvager or a miner, for the first few weeks is going to be really smart, and then kind of picking which refinery, an off the beaten path refinery would be my suggestion. Let's see here. In game, the Titan is about 850k. Yeah, it's not too expensive. All right. Well, you know what? We've had a great conversation tonight. I don't know if there's anything else at all you want to chat about, Sandy. Is there something that some question I didn't ask, or something you want to share more when it comes to trading?
I think just like anything else, you got to find what you enjoy doing. The money in the UAC you make is secondary to it. I've enjoyed mining. I won't say I got burnt out of it, but I just enjoy cargo running a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little more sweaty. You never know where you're going to fly into. I've flown into hostiles multiple times, interdicted once or twice. If you like bounty hunting and tracking people down, do that. But I hope, my hope is cargo running becomes a more viable option at a lower level than just the C2. I don't even get, I've tried the Caterpillar, it's close. The Hercules is just so much more maneuverable. I don't see there being a benefit in doing anything else besides the C2 right now for cargo hauling, unfortunately. But I do think you can make just as much money cargo hauling as you can mining. The difference is once you get into the multiple prospectors, they win hands down as far as money.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't disagree with what you're saying with that. I do think that somebody who's a dedicated cargo person, who understands kind of the routes and really kind of gets into cutting the times down as much as they can, and you take that and you juxtapose that with kind of a lazy miner who just kind of, I'll get to doing this, I'll get to doing that. You know what I mean? I definitely think that it's a very, very close competition. I think people who are dedicated cargo haulers can really boogie.
I mean, how many mining nights have you had where you found no I'm granted, you always have luck in the belt.
No, you're wrong. I mean,
unicorns in the first go.
And I mean, in the most respectful sense, yeah. I mean, there are times when I'm 45 minutes, man. And I haven't.
And you got nothing.
And I found nothing. Exactly right. Mining has nights where, like, man, you come out of Quantum and like, holy crap, here's 270 grand sitting here. You know what I mean? And sometimes you fly around, you're like at 43% hydrogen. You're like, oh my gosh, it's like, all right, I'm gonna take this 17%er and lick my wounds and fly in for the night.
That Bex light starts looking good at that point.
It does. It absolutely does. You know what I mean? I don't disagree with that. So, but you need a multi-tool mining head for it. Oh, I must have missed something there. Nice to see you. Didge says, Metaphysical says the best way to make money as a starter is to learn rock mining and run a Cuddy Black. Yeah, listen, rock mining is a very steady way to make money. I think it's also a fun game loop that can teach you a lot of well-rounded skills, right? In the capacity, there's a lot of takeoffs, landings in odd areas, unusual broken lands. There's, it's a combination of loading, ground vehicles. There's a really nice rounded skill set with rock mining. It just teaches you how to be just a better star citizen if you spend time doing that.
I know people that pirate rock miners a lot too, so
yeah, definitely. If you're gonna rock mine, going into 318, I guess one of my best pieces of advice would be grab an OM marker and go in. I wouldn't suggest flying to some place that's, like, especially if you're, on Aberdeen, there's only a couple places there, Han and, the other place, I think. Don't fly to one of those places. Grab an OM marker and fly down. Don't make yourself an easy target. Let's see here. Just watch your Magda vid being good stuff. Thanks, Digital. I appreciate that. Go to Bountiful Harvest and find a railgun to deal with reefers. I suppose, yeah. I mean, that's something that Grift and I talked about last week, and Metaphysical, I don't know if you had watched it, but Grift and I did a whole big thing on piracy last week, and one of the things we talked about is understanding kind of a railgun can really kind of level the playing field sometimes. and occasionally, if you're being boarded, or especially if it's dependent on how what kind of resistance you're meeting, you can if you happen to find yourself in soft death, you might want there's no reason not to kind of get yourself a railgun and have it in the ship, and be ready to at least be at least blow some people up if they're going to get you and get your stuff, if they're not going to negotiate. So I think it's one of those things. Learn how to repel if you're being boarded, or at least learn how to make it so you're not easy or whatever. Cool. Well, this has gone really well. Thank you for all the info. Hope to see you all in the game. Trevor, the last thing I'll say to you is thank you for coming and asking. You don't have to use mine, but there is a code that you can put in, and that code can get you a few extra bucks. So if you have a friend who plays the game, get their code and make sure you put that in when you sign up, because you'll get I think 5 extra thousand, and they will too. So if you don't know, there is a link in my description. If you want to use it, you're welcome to it. But like I said, if you have a friend, use theirs. And if you call on back to the channel too. I mean, if you have questions as you get started, we're always happy to help. Cool. Well, does anybody have? I guess let me just open the floor here. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anything else that you want to discuss? Obviously, this has been a big week. There's a lot happening. We're 318 is about to turn the corner. Everybody keeps saying that, but I do think honestly, sometime in the next 7 to 10 business days, I have a feeling it's going to be it's going to be a thing. I actually think probably by Friday 318 will come out, but I could be wrong. Everybody's been wrong, but I think it's going to come out. But yeah, I thought I'd ask, does anybody else have any other questions at all? Give them a moment. You're absolutely right about that, Monk. Well, Sandy, thank you for joining me tonight. I truly mean it. I just want to say a couple of nice things about Sandy. I will tell you point blank, if you're, when you see episodes of Bullish, make sure you do go to Sandy, get with Sandy and, wherever, make sure you posted your links and everything, Sandy. Make sure that you do, if you happen to get an opportunity to watch an episode of Bullish, watch it. Because you're going to, especially if you're interested about learning about trade, you'll learn an awful lot of, and pertinent information. So, I can't wait for 318 either. Grift, I'm with you. So thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me. I know it's outside of the normal Quantanium and coffee realm, but
it is, and that's not something I do. Not something I do all the time. So I appreciate you kind of accommodating me, and so hey everybody, thank you for your time tonight. The stream itself, the kind of the video is just kind of me just wandering around, not doing a whole lot, but great conversation with Sandy tonight. Great conversation about the state of trade, and please, everybody, have yourself a lovely Sunday evening. Have yourself a great week. We'll see you. We'll see you guys later, and take care of yourself.